So we're going to start the mimer from Shabbos Parshas Teruma, Vav the recent Tavshin Mem Vav. It's, I believe, close to the same quiz like our year. Okay. Yitnech and says Shir Hashirim, who will give you like a brother to me, Yitnech Shtehimi, nursing at his mother's breast, and so I will find you outside. As Shal Chogaimer, I will kiss you. Dua the Roshal Pasuk Zebatoida Oresh part is saying it's known the mimer on this Pasuk at the beginning of our parsha. Hainu Bas Cholas Achsidisha parsha at the beginning of the Chsidisha parsha. What's the term? The Chsidisha parsha. Showing Kvoit, which is Marecham Mead Monesidarein. Like the expression of my father-in-law. In other words, please get up. Mamori HaTorah Oir Valuk the Torah. A Chsidisha parsha, the Mamorim of Torah Oir the Torah is the Chsidisha Torah portion, meaning just like one has to be Maver Sedra every week, the literal Torah portion, they need to review, say, the Shnai Mikra Vechatargum of the Parsha of the week. So too, Chassid has the Chsidisha Parsha. He needs to go through, at least in a way of passing and so on, in a superficial way, similar to Maver Sedra, the Chsidisha Torah portion of the week. The portion of Torah Oil, the Torah that has to do with that particular week's parsha. In general, the winter months, the Chsidisha parsha of the week, are the Mamorim in Torah Oil. As we know, the Torah Oil has Chumash, Bereshis, and Shmois primarily, and the Torah has primarily the parshas of Vayikra, Bamidbar Dvarim, plus Shilashidim, etc. Visa Tzarech Loimar, point is we have to say, Yeshla Zeh Shayches B'Keshel LaParsha Shavua Parsha Trum, that there is a connection and an association between the Parsha of the week, which is Parshas Truma, because this is the mimer that we're learning in Parshas Truma. So even though the mimer doesn't have a title that's from a pasuk of Parshas Truma, the fact that it's inserted in Parshas Truma, so it has a connection with the Parsha of the week. The noise of all catcher of Pashas, in addition to the simple connection, according to what's explained in the mimer itself, that it speaks about Inyan HaKruvim for Pashas Truma. The mimer speaks about the topic of the Kruvim. And the Kruvim that were on top of the Aron is discussed in Pashas Truma. So therefore, when one is wondering why did Alter Rebbe place this mimer on the pasuk in Shir Hashirim inside the or not the Alter Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek arranged this way. Why did he put it that the Torah or mimer of Yitnech Ka'ochli should be over here on Parshas Truma? Because since Parshas Truma speaks about the Kruvim, and since this mimer will eventually talk about the Kruvim, so therefore it's included over here, rather than, let's say, there's a whole section of Mamorim on Shir Hashirim and the Torah, which the Tzemach Tzedek could have included over there. But the Rebbe adds, Stop and Loimar, it makes sense to say, Gam Haskolos Adruj, also the beginning of the mimer, the title, the pasuk, Mi Yitnech V'Gomer, Kosher and Parshas Truma is connected with the Parsha of Truma, not just the association is because in the mimer he talks about the Kruvim, but the pasuk itself, it's the title has to do with our Parsha. So how is it connected with our parsha? In a Hamshka Pasaku, equation of that pasuk in Shir Hashirim is Anhagcha, I will lead you al Yachal Beis Imi, I will bring you to my mother's house. It is referring, what's the mother's house that we will bring the person that he finds outside? It's referring to the Beis Hamikdash, like Rashi says on that pasuk in Shir Hashirim. Klolus Tochma pasuk, and the general meaning of this pasuk, Yitnech Ka'ochli, Ka'ib is Mansh Beis Hamikdash Hayekayim, is referring to the wish for what we experienced when the Beis Hamikdash stood. Who will give me? Who will replace that thing that I had, that I was my mother's house, and I will kiss you, etc., etc. These are all experiences of the times that when the Beit Mikdash stood. This is the request in the time of Golos that we're asking. Who, in other words, when will we finally have this type of experience? Like it's also explained in the Maimer of Torah later on. And here we see how even the title bus is connected with our parsha, because our parsha is about Vasily Mikdash. They shall make a mikdash for me, and I shall dwell amongst them. Mikdash command for building the Mishkan and the Mikdash, and that is why this is something that's done in that's why this pasuk is connected with our parsha, because our parsha is about the building of the Beis Hamikdash and the Mishkan with all the details involved, and primarily it's the mitzvah of building a Beis Hamikdash, and the entire pasuk Yitnech ka'achli, etc., is about wishing and hoping again for the times of the Beis Hamikdash. So it goes on to explain further, line 18, who the idea behind this is resting of the Shekhinah, the times of the Beis Hamikdash when it stood, was connected with the idea of Torah. Where did the Shekhinah rest in the Beis Hamikdash? It rested on the Aron. How do we see this? Like it says, and I will meet with you, I will, etc. And I will upon the kapoides, the covering of the Aron. And Aron who in Torah, the Aron is the idea of Torah. But Aron was laying the tablets of the covenant. Gamma Sefer Torah Aron, also the Sefer Torah was laying either in the Aron or on the side of the Aron. Like explain the Gemara, the two opinions of the, it says that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote 12 Sefer Torah, each one was given to one of the Shvatim. The 13th was placed in the Aron. Now the question was it placed in the Aron under the kapoides inside the actual space of the Aron, or there was a board or some similar type of shelf that protruded from the side of the Aron, and over there the Sefer Torah was. So what do we see again? That the Aron, which is the primary place of the Hashras HaShechina, because Hashem spoke from upon the Aron, that was the place of Torah. So we see that the Shechina resting in the Beis Hamikdash is connected directly with the idea of Torah. In a similar vein, this is also after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Like it's explained in the continuation of the Maimer Torah. In a similar vein, in the generations following that, following the Alter Rebbe's Maimer, part of these Mamorim were read that the Rebbeim spoke about this topic, whether reprinted or made well known. Maimer of the same result statement that the Chazal is which part of Beis Hamikdash from when the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. Ein loy al Kadosh Baruch Hu ba'olam el dal dam shalom. Hashem only has in this world only the 4 cubits of halacha. The fact that it is halacha is a replacement for the Beis Hamikdash indicates as well that the Beis Hamikdash connection with the Shekhinah also had to do with Torah. Move on. Came from this, it's also understood that the resting of the Shekhinah and the Mikdash kosher meaning our Torah is connected to the Torah. The Aladam Shalach and the 4 cubits of Allah, like it's explained in the continuation of the Maimer of the Alter Rebbe in Torah about but Tanya said and also at length in Tanya at the end of Likutei Amorim. But Alter Rebbe speaks about this as well, that it has to do with Tanya. So therefore, what do we see over here? There's this connection between the Ashras, Ashkina, and Torah, and that was the means of how the Shekhinah rested in the Beis Hamikdash. That's why it rested in the Aron. And that's why when we have no Beis Hamikdash, Torah study, halacha replaces the Beis Hamikdash because it's the place of Torah. This is the content of the request of the Jewish people during the time of exile. Who will give you like a brother to me? Basically, I will bring you to my mother's house. So beforehand, we brought that base, the mother's house, the Beis Hamikdash. But there's another explanation of Imi, my mother. Zu Torah Shabbat Peh. This refers to the oral Torah that it says Shema b'ni Musa Bicha, and then you shouldn't leave Torah Simecha. While Titosh Torah Simecha, so it's brought down that Musa Bicha, the father, that's Torah Shabbat, that's the written Torah, which gives only the point, just like the father only gives the core of the child, and the mother develops the child. Just like Torah Shabbat Peh develops the halacha from the core point of the Torah Shabbat. So, Beis Imi will mean the Beis Hamikdash, and Beis Imi will also mean Torah Shabbat Peh. That now, in the time of Golus, what do we have to replace the Beis Hamikdash? That we have Torah. This will be the resting of the Shekhinah in the 4 cubits of halacha. The Rebbe goes on about this, line 11, the literal and simple meaning of the 4 cubits of halacha. How does it result? It comes through the effort and the study of the person that's studying. That when he studies something, he's studying a sugya to bring it to the final resulting halacha, to be able to come to the conclusion of halacha. People can learn something without a practical application, not knowing the practical application. But the ideal is, let's say when one is learning a topic in Gemara or a Mishnah, to go through the entire topic and see how this manifests itself and how this expresses itself in halacha. That is the ultimate way of learning the Torah Shabbat Peh, to come to its conclusion, to its halachic final conclusion. What do we do, or what we don't? So the Rebbe first of all says, I said, oh, there's nothing. There is no thing that is not hinted in the Torah. The Torah Shabbat, everything must be in the written Torah. So any halacha that I'm making effort and toil in and through study is already written in Torah Shabbat. Still in all there has to be the toil to be able to come to the conclusion of the halach l'maisa from the oral Torah. There is much written in the Torah Shabbat Peh, and to be able to come to the conclusion takes a lot of effort. And in a very simple way, one of the reasons it says why it comes to what we need to have a lot of effort is just what he's saying now. There's a lot of information. And this information, in the way it's in let's say, in Gemara, is not organized. And therefore, if I see something that says in one piece of Gemara, it could be that in another piece of Gemara, it completely does away with that view. And that's called, the first view of it. And later on, they came to the conclusion differently. And if I do not have the whole Gemara and the whole Shas at my fingertips, and to know every single possibility and permutation of this halacha, the way it might be brought down in any place in Shas, it's very, very difficult to come to the conclusion. And therefore, it takes a lot of toil, because Gemara is so vast. Where do we see that the Torah Shbapa is so vast? Like it says in the pasuk, Shishim Hema Malachis, there are 60 queens. The 60 queens go on, Shem Shishim Masechtas, that there are 60 tractates of the Mishnah. In other words, of the Mishnah is divided into 6 orders, but the individual tractates are 60. Just as a side point, it's actually, if you count it, it might be a little bit more. There's other ways of counting it than just the way it's by us. But anyway, Shmoinim Palakshim, there are 80 concubines. Elu Braises, this is going on the Braises. Lamas are in Mispar, and there's maidens to no count. Elu Memras Hamaroim Shebeshas, these are referring to the statements of the Amaroim in the Gemara. So we see how vast it is. This is the point over here. That's a very vast type of thing. And now, Mikol Zeh, there needs to be the derivation of the final understanding according to halacha. How do you get from such a massive type of information? And like I said, it's not organized, and it could be the same halacha discussed somewhere else, or a version of it that may not seem the same to an untrained eye, but is really the same core idea that is completely different than the way we discuss it in a different place. So there, and from all this, we have to come to the conclusion of the sugya according to Allah. That's the idea of putting in effort in Torah in the one who nurses at his mother's breast. So I think perhaps the analogy over here, the metaphor over here, is that the child can only take in a little bit amount of whatever it's only nursing. Nursing is a very small amount that the child is able to digest. The same thing from the vast, huge collection of Torah Sheba'al, one needs to derive that small piece that is the final halach. The idea the boy through an appropriate effort and toil, magi al psak halacha, he reaches the actual halachic ruling, that then it becomes that Hashem is with him, that halacha is like it. That it says that Doeg described David HaMelech, that Havai Imai, that means that the words Havai Imai means that the halacha is with him. So that the halacha follows his view when he disputes. When it comes to disputes in Gemara, we say Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim Chaim. These and those are the opinion of Elokim Chaim. Shem Elokim tolerates different views and opinions. Shem Havaya is the halachic way. That is the idea of the Ashras Ashchina. This what we're saying, that when a person has the psak halacha, then it's Havaya Imboy. That's Hainu Ashras Ashchina. That's the resting of the Shchina. We said before that from the time that the Beis Mikdash was destroyed, when is there this level of Ashras Ashchina? Dal Dam Shalocha. When we have the halacha, that's when we have the Ashras Ashchina. Top of page Zion, Mikdash. Just like in the Beis Hamikdash, we have the Ashras Ashchina, like it says in the Atil Chasham V'Goymer, and I will meet you over there, etc. Yet, yes, Bali Asakim, there are business people. Their main involvement is not in the halacha of Torah. Who could know that, as it's known, Sheyesh Yisrael Morer Raisa Talmidei Chachamim. Amongst the Yidden, there are two groups. There's masters of Torah, otherwise known as Talmidei Chachamim, and Morer Uvdin Tavim, and those that are masters of good deeds. Bali Asakim, those that are involved in doing business. Flawless, what happens when Yisachar was in general. This is the difference between the Shevet Yisachar versus Shevet Zvulun. See, like it says, Mach Zvulun, B'tzei rejoice Zvulun in your goings out, because, as Rashi explained, he used to go out on ships for business, and therefore his apportioned place was on the seashore, because he used to take ships to go do business. Yisachar Ba'alecha. Yisachar is in your tent. Yisachar oya ba'ala shel Torah. Yisachar remain in the tent of Torah, but that is them in a similar vein, just like there's the level of Yisachar and Zvulun. There's also Avodas Kol Yisrael, similar in the Avodah of the entire Kol Yisrael. Yesh Mari Torah, Shem Ba'ala Shel Torah. There's the masters of Torah that find themselves in the tent of Torah. Bedal Damish Halacha, in the 4 cubits of Halacha, or alternatively, Bedal Damish Tefillah, or in the 4 cubits of Davening Kimibur Bedrush, like it's explained in that mimer of the Alter Rebbe on Torah Oyer and Pashas Truma. Zvulun hayayitzalachutz. Zvulun would go outside. Smach Zvulun bitzei secha. Rejoice Zvulun in going out. Lasik b'pragmatia, to be involved in business. So too its business people and masters of good deeds. That find themselves outside of the 4 cubits of Allah and the 4 amas of davening. Concerning this, it says in our pasuk, specifically, where do I find you? Outside. In other words, after the whole lengthy idea that we said, that where is Hashem's Ashras Hashchina? That Ashras Hashchina of Hashem is Davke in the Beis Hamikdash. Why? Because over there was the Aron and the Luchas and Sefer Torah, etc. And since the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, it's specifically in Dal Dam Shalom. Despite that, there could be Emtsa'acha Bachutz. I could find you outside. Also business people that are found outside. That they go outside. Also by them there has to be, I will find you. Don't think I'm a business person, I don't learn Torah all day, I don't have the 4 cubits of halacha, I'm lost. It's not for me. Saying also by business people, also by those that are bachutz, that have the option in time bachutz, though they are found outside. Therefore, there has to be an idea of searching. The very fact that it says, I found you, or I find you, find is associated with searching. Why does he have to search? Because he's not inside the 4 cubits of halacha and inside the 4 cubits of daven. He is outside. And because of that, he has to search, but he becomes successful that even outside he will find it. Apple became Abakosh. He's still, and all the request is, I will find you in the outside. Also there, they will find Hashem. Even though, again, they're business people, they're involved in mitzvahs, they're not involved in Torah. Now the Rebbe adds another point. Not just that the Baalei Asakim, the business people, can also find Hashem in addition to those that are sitting and learning all day, but just the opposite, even more so. On this it says specifically, I will kiss you. Specifically those that are found outside. These are business people and masters of good deeds. They have the bond and godliness and a level of a kiss specifically. That's higher than Torah study. Because Torah study, whether we're talking about Torah, the written Torah, the oral Torah, is connected with letters of speech. So in other words, it's like the bond between Hashem and the Yidden that occurs through Torah study. It's like the bond of 2 people that occurs when they speak to each other. There's a bond between them, but it's limited to language. It's limited to how much language can express the bond between them. And sometimes language is just too poor to express the connection. But that bond is the bond of speech that takes place through Torah work. As opposed to the light that shines by business people. It's like a love that is that is expressed through kissing. That a kiss is beyond the bond of speech. It's a much deeper bond. That a kiss comes as a result of the inner love in the heart. That does not become enclosed and cannot express itself in any vessels, in any letters, in any language. Language is too poor and too limiting to express the love, and one needs instead to express it with a kiss. So he's saying an amazing thing, that with Torah study, the Mari Torah, the ones that are Talmidei Chachamim, the ones that are learning Torah most of the time, by them, their connection with Hashem is a less internal one, because it's like a connection, a bond between two people of speech. So Acha Bachutz, the one that I find outside, Baalei Asakim, those they have a greater revelation of light than even the one through Torah. And that's why it says, Veshakacha, I will kiss you, because their bond is beyond the speech of Torah. Their bond is the bond of a kiss. Now the Rebbe on the top of page Ches is going to note that the Alter Rebbe in Tanya and Perek Memhei actually calls the joining of Torah study, it's also called a kiss. So why are we saying that the business person that's outside, he has this great revelation of a kiss, this type of powerful love that is not, that cannot be contained, that cannot be expressed, and so on and so forth in words. Whereas the person who is learning Torah, his bond is a limited external bond. It's a level of speech. We have in Tanya Perek Memhei, it says that when a person studies Torah, it's actually likened to a kiss. Though in general, there's also what's called the cleaving of the spirit to the spirit in the level of a kiss, also in Torah study. In other words, just like when a person kisses, so then the breath, which is also ruach, breath and air and spirit is connected. There's an exchange of like breath between them. The same thing, the Alter Rebbe and Tanya likens the idea of the connection between a Yid and Hashem is like this inner exchange of breath and spirit to spirit that takes place in a kiss. So how do we say that the Baalei Asakim, the business person, is the level of Neshikin of a kiss, whereas Torah is only the level of speech? So for that he says, Shebechlolis, says in the beginning of the brackets, Hagam Shebechlolis, in general, Torah study is also the level of a kiss. But in more specific manner, you have this specifically by business people, and in the side commentary it brings down, like in Tanya it says over there in that page, even though it speaks about at the level of the kiss that happens between a Yid and Hashem is in Torah study, but then he says ubefrat, and especially when is there this joining between the Yid and Hashem in this type of way of a kiss. This is befrat ma'aseh tzedakah v'chesed, the actions of tzedakah and kindness. That's where you have the level of the joining of the kiss. So earlier he says that through the connection of a speech of a person with varavaya zu halacha, That's the level of the kiss. And that's why it says in Shir Shirim, Meshakenim, and Shikis Piyu, it's talking about Torah. And he talks about also when the thought of the person is bound up with the thought of Hashem and the action, then he goes on. And the action, which is the actions of mitzvahs, especially the Maisa of tzedakah and chesed. So this is what he's saying, that primarily actions, mara ubdintav, that is primarily the Maisim Tov is primarily the Bali Asakim. So with them, they have this level of the Patratius, the specific level of Nishikin, of a kiss, more so than those that are sitting and learning all day.